What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction. And we're back with some more of The Grid, which is to say Dave Ball of Soft Cell along with Richard Norris. I reacted to a Grid remix of a Soft Cell tune way back. You can't see the album title, as Luca is apparently, she has places to be, things to do. But yeah, I reacted to a Grid remix of a Soft Cell track from a CD single, which includes that Tainted Love, Where Did Our Love Go medley. And at the time, I didn't really know all that much about Soft Cell, just a little bit, the couple hits that I remembered as a kid. And ultimately, I sort of found that CD in my collection. It's like, hey, I'm reconnecting with some of these groups. I had started doing Duran Deep Dive by that point, so it was like, it was a way to try to get in touch with a group I remembered from my youth. And then shortly after that, I found out that they actually have come back and made albums, as recently as a couple years ago. I found out about the history of, at least the rough sketch of the history of their early history, followed by the breakup, followed by the Grid, and so on. So I've learned a lot since the last time I've been to the Grid. Again, shout out to all the people who've been contributing in that regard. Kim has been commenting on a lot of the Soft Cell reactions, Han Solo, of course. I really do appreciate you all. And yeah, while we're still going through the art of falling apart, I thought it'd be good to go and do this. And again, in this regard, big shout out to Doug. Doug has sent me all sorts of things already, both CDs and vinyl, as well as a cassette tape. So yeah, still lots of things to go through that he has sent, but I really do appreciate people who send me, physical media, because it, takes time and effort. You got to go to the post office, you got to pay for shipping and so on. So yeah, big ups to you, Doug. I really do appreciate it. And it's interesting, I don't know the original Grid tune, which is called Figure of 8. There's two versions here. There's the cleverly named 4, 5, 6, 7-inch edit, 4, 5, 6, 7. But on the other side, it's the 7-inch tribal trance edit. You might be familiar with the fact that I'm a big fan of trance music, especially acid trance, but hard trance, melodic trance, progressive trance, you name it. Now, it's funny because my preferred forms of trance, trance is certainly, this is from 92, as it says on the record here, and trance is certainly around by 92. It's still, in many ways, in its formative stages. It's still yet to more clearly branch out into some subgenres. So generally speaking, with trance and techno, 93 is sort of the cutoff for me. I didn't start going to, or listening to dance music till late 96, didn't go to my first parties until the very end of that year, and especially the beginning of 97. But eventually, I heard tunes from 95, 94, 96, and so on, and a lot of those I really enjoyed. When you get to 93, and especially 92, some of the tracks to my ears and brain, and obviously that's a subjective thing, but they sound more dated. They sound more like, you can hear where they're going, but the genre hasn't quite crystallized yet. So a lot of the trance that I'm into, it's like 93, some tracks, 94, a few more tracks, 95, some more. And by the time you get to 96, I feel like it's boom. Acid trance, acid techno, those genres are popping by 96. So it's interesting. 92 tends to be before my taste, preference period. But at the same time, I have heard exceptions. 91, there's a tune by Fantasia with a PH called Inner Light. Brilliant tune. And that's like early acid trance, so there are exceptions, but the fact that this is a track from 92 called the Tribal Trance Edit really makes me curious. Now, there's no one else listed here as like a remix credit. It just says Dave Ball and Richard Norris. So as far as I know, this is just, one of the versions they came up with for this track. So here we go, let's get it. This is The Grid, aka Dave Ball and Richard Norris, and the track is called Figure of 8. And it's the 7-inch tribal trance edit. And one more time, shout out to Doug for sending this to me so we can all listen to it. I'm going to assume 45, but I'll adjust if needed. Surely we're at the right tempo here. Technically pitched. Revolutions per minute, like most fundamentally. Mystery, it's got that acid swizzle, and it ain't got a bad kick drum either. Came in like heavier than I thought it would. hits like percussion. This is better than I expected it to
Get
be.
into it.
There's a melancholy, there's a haze over the track. Curl. It's so good. I'm feeling more like jazzy trance edit than tribal trance edit, but either way, it's fantastic. That loop vocal earlier maybe wasn't my favorite element, but it didn't linger too long, so I don't even really have a problem with that. Man, don't fade it. God, we're doing laser synths up in the sky. Sax still blaring away. Yeah, man, I feel like I need an extended long play of that one. That's a brilliant tune. Again, my only lament is that it was a bit short, but again, fantastic. Shout out to Doug for sending this over. It's just making me more and more curious about Dave Ball and what he and Mr. Norris were doing post Soft Cell. So yeah, bottom line, need to know more about the Grid or hear more of their music. Again, we'll go back and listen to the 4, 5, 6, 7-inch mix at some point, but I did want to start with the Tribal Trance mix because when I saw that, it's like, oh man, like, I've gotten back into Soft Cell, Dave Ball, he's a crucial part of that, and although I don't really know the Grid, I'm obviously curious, again, as I said, about the evolution of the Soft Cell guys and their musical history and the period of the Grid as part of that. So yeah, I'm interested already, but then like I said, to see a Tribal Trance remix name from a tune from '92, it made me curious, but as I said, it exceeded or surpassed my expectations based on trance that I know and appreciate, and my own taste, which again, 93 tends to be the cutoff. There's some tunes in '93 I like, some that sound dated. The farther forward you go, the more I like and the less that sounds dated. And before that, the less I like and the more that sounds dated, with exceptions again. But yeah, this would be, I suppose, an exception, because this is a really top tune. As I said, maybe that like little vocal loop, which I couldn't even quite make out what he was saying. Maybe that wasn't my favorite element, but as I said, it didn't pervade most of the track. In the moment, it wasn't even terrible. It was just kind of like, it felt like it was waiting to do something else, but it just kept, sort of chopping it and looping it. But again, that's a minor complaint, and that tune was better than I expected. So yeah, shout out to the Grid. Shout out to Dave Ball. Looking forward to getting back to The Art of Falling Apart. Shout out once again to Doug for sending me, physical media, records, CDs, vinyl, or records, CDs, and cassettes. But yeah, just really cool. Really appreciate that. Do let me know what you think. I will see you next time. Peace. What are you doing? What are you doing over here?